What up, sir?
Hey, what up?
How
How
we
are you?
doing?
Good. Thanks a lot for bringing me on.
Yeah, of course, man. Excited to chat. So you're the co-founder of Fantasy Top, which is a card game where you bet on the performance of your favorite Twitter influencers. You guys have had 190,000 players and distributed $5 million in rewards since launching last year. So yeah, excited to you guys have been on a fun journey. I love talking to projects that have been kind of through the ups and downs for years. Launching on chains that didn't work out, kind of figuring the pivot. So I think lots we can get into here. But I think maybe to start off, kind of just wanted to check in on I guess, like the initial insight that led you to building Fantasy Top. I think a lot of people kind of recognize that, influencers were the new athletes. There's a lot of opportunity to kind of extend the surface area. You can express that fandom, but you guys have taken a pretty novel approach to it with this card game. So yeah, curious if you can just talk about the kind of insight and what led you to starting this.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, yeah, you touched on the right points and saying that with this whole theory that influencers are the new stars and that they are what drives the mind shares and the media and how opinions are being formed. And it's a bit like they are all mainly on X or any platforms. They're a bit like some kind of gladiators, all fighting for attentions, and there's a limited amount of attention that they're fighting for it. So in retrospect, it makes sense, the whole like fantasy building, but initially we're a bit further away from that. We were always a big fan of Sorare, that really created and started this movement and fantasy sport adapted to NFTs. We're also like big users of Rentech, and so at the time we're kind of just trying to launch a few different side projects and just have fun around the meme coin movement. And initially, we just wanted to kind of launch a meme coin that had some kind of interesting aspect to it. And so we were like, oh yeah, why not do this Sorare type of friend type of things, and starting like sharing it around in our groups, talking with a few people on Twitter, on CT, etc. It quickly grew up much bigger than what we thought initially what it was. So then we decided not to do any meme coin and then focus on actually building a proper product and doing this fully. And so yeah, it's been a wild ride ever since this last year and a half or something like this. Like we went live on Blast, I believe, in last May. And Blast was a great propellant for us, propelled us very high. We created a big community around it. It was really the best chains to be on at that time. Since then, it definitely did died out a little bit. Not a little bit actually, but
completely. Yeah.
But and yeah, so yesterday, 2 days ago, we announced our bridging to base with a set of release also of new gameplay, new features, and also some partnerships with the base wallet and their new mini app, where they're heavily pushing into these social aspects of a wallet, not just interacting, transacting on it, but also playing on it, having apps, kind of the Apple App Store type of apps, a social feed. And so they're pushing heavily on this, and fantasy is the best type of free to play you could play on this kind of mini apps, because it can be very addictive, very easy to get on. And the free to play is something that we never had since the start, but which made a lot of sense, and that is completing a bit the puzzles of the game and how to make it grow. And so we're very excited to go on this journey.
Awesome. Yeah, I want to talk about the Blast base thing in a sec, but maybe before we get into that, I'm curious to talk about game design a bit, because I think it's one of the things that is just so nuanced and harder to appreciate the outside. So I wonder if you can, I guess, talk a bit about maybe what you guys got wrong in the game design in the early days and how it's evolved in the year and a half since.
Yeah, no, great question. So for sure, fantasy games with NFTs were completely new with Sorare, but doing fantasy sport type of games on not sport but rather social influencers, so replicating this idea on something completely different was never done before. And so for sure we had to take a lot of inspiration from what kind of existed, but not everything translates well from sports to social. So we had to do a lot of iterations, and oftentimes the initial idea was not the right one, and it switched to something different. For this, what we were, I'd say, quite lucky and smart enough to do is that we had a long period of testnet where the game were fully playable. So for like 2-3 months before launching mainnet, we made our iteration, and before launching to mainnet, we had, I think, like around 10, like a bit less maybe than 10,000 daily active users that were actively playing the game. And which is very rare for a testnet project in general, where nothing kind of works, or they're just trying to figure out the bugs, but it's not really live. And even despite having money on the table, the game was still like fun enough and enjoyable enough for people to actually play it on a daily basis. So it was very encouraging for us, but also it gave us great tools so that we had constant feedbacks for those 3 months. And so the game evolved a lot from this beginning of the testnet period until going to mainnet. So initially, like the MVP was nothing, was not even on the blockchain testnet. Like everything was just in a database. It was still called NFTs. You could still sell them, buy them, but it was just not even like a testnet ETH or blockchain. Nothing was actually on it, and it just allowed us to move much faster in this design, because in the end, like you can try to be like to think a lot about this, like either you know your subject very well, or you just get the iteration, but trying to overthink things, it just like never works in general. So we kind of learned to always evolve like this, of thinking about something, sharing it around, seeing if it's cool, applying it, and have this like quick feedback loop where a new idea would pop up, and a few days later it was being like live, and then either we kill it or we continue on it. So it was a lot of iteration, but very small, incremental.
Speaking of that kind of iteration, Fantasy Top relies a lot on the Twitter API, which is notoriously difficult to work with. I'm curious both how you managed to work with it, at what point you introduced it, and also given your move to Base and the Farcaster integration in the Base app, are you thinking about Farcaster as well?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, great questions on that. Like for sure, like Farcaster was we were initially, and we're still are, like some ETH, like we grew up in the Ethereum ecosystem, and so we're like a very also like we all like we are building at some points even before on Lens. So we were kind of like always around these kind of social things, and so we thought about it, but to be honest, like this, for now at least, the pool of the daily active users, like right now, we have almost, maybe not now because Farcaster grew, but at that time when we started, and 3 months later, we had like more daily active users on our game than actually on Farcaster. So it didn't make much sense. And also this complexity of accessing Twitter data is also the barrier to entry of fantasy and all those products that are like displaying the Twitter data. And Farcaster being all open, there were some copycat that appeared, a few like started, but never took off. And you just it's also like harder in the end to go on Farcaster than to just go on Twitter and to create your kind of mode there. But yeah, Twitter API is not the easiest. Now more and more players are starting to do like some heavy lifting on this. For sure, it required us a lot of building and a big infrastructure to be able to maintain this kind of intensity of a Twitter API, even more when you have money on the line. Like if you're just displaying some statistics, it's very easy to track 1 million accounts and show their tweet and just display some kind of general idea how many views you got, how many comments and stuff like this. But once you start, like we deployed, so you said at the beginning, like 5 million of rewards, but this is only for players. We also gave around 3 million, I believe, to fantasy heroes, so influencers. And so overall, I think like we need to update our numbers, but we are close to the 10 million figures being distributed within the game. And so with these kind of things, when you know that you can buy 100,000 views on Twitter for like $10 or $100, then the incentive rewards is quickly unbalanced. So we like most 95% of the work we've done in terms of Twitter ingestion of the data is to be able to be resistant to this kind of like not organic views. And so yeah, it took us a lot of time and still taking us a lot of our time. But in the end, it's also one of the greatest strengths that we have. And that's why like we've been evolving, like we continuing on the game, but also on the more like a general aspect of with the fantasy clouds, which is a point system similar to Yap, where anybody can be tracked and earn some clouds and build reputation there. And we're pushing also heavily on this kind of project too, because it's very synergetic with the main fantasy games, and it's something you can only do when you have the whole infrastructures that allows you to track this kind of data, even more when you have money on the line.
Can you talk about maybe your growth strategy a bit? So it seems like from the outside, you've kind of had, you've had this like really hardcore group of, believers, they've been with you for a year, they've retained, they love what you're building, and you've kind of just been focused on like improving the game and iterating alongside them. Like, is that how you've been approaching it? Have you, actively been trying to grow the platform? It seems like you haven't been playing a lot of the games that most crypto products do to just try to get as much attention as they possibly can at every moment.
Yeah, no, that's pretty true. I mean, we had like a huge amount of attentions in the beginning, and then quickly formed this this Frontario cabal, as we call them, that are like those like the life of the fantasy and what matters the most, and they've been like most of them. I'd say I'm not sure exactly of the numbers, but I would say that around 70% of the players even now are been playing for like more than 6 months or 12 months or something like that. So insane retention there, and then some more difficulties on making the game grow and attracting newer players. Initially, like we had a lot of time spending on actually catching up with the level of attention that we had on our infrastructures, because we were far from being ready. Like every time, it's always better to push for things to make it seems like it's ready, even though it's far from being ready. And then all this Twitter ingesting data, all the anti-botting tools that we built to be able to know exactly what is true or not, took us like a bit of time. Also, like we made a bunch of iteration on new type of gameplays with tactics, on new type of product within the game. And so then we also like made a collaboration with Monad to do like their main like testnet partners for like people to play on testnet products, which were really successful in having like a lot of attentions. And we had like, I don't know, maybe like 3 or 4 million technically players. I'd say maybe 10 or 20% are actual organic, but still, like with the numbers, actually impressive, the number of organic people that we get. But then, yeah, we didn't want to continue on Monad or on other chains. We wanted to focus more on the products, on creating something long term, and not trying to jump between every attention sphere that can appears and then pop out, and just trying going like long term. And all the things that we have done now, I've been deciding in the past 6 months. So it's always a bit like this, and not trying to always jump around.
Got it.
Yeah, as a founder who's been on Blast, experimented with Monad, now moving to Base, I'm curious, from someone who's building an app, who's founding a company and has to rely on these other chains, how do you reflect on these choices? What happened at Blast?
Yeah, so Blast for us at that time, when we started, like Blast was still testnet, and was like one of the most hype, like chain. But we didn't deploy on Blast because of its hype mainly. For sure, it helps, but it was mainly for Pac-Man. Like we always admired him, the way he executed on Blur, his vision overall, the way he's very focused on future stuff. And so we were big believers in Pac-Man and what he could bring. So we went fully trusting him on this, and it really helped a lot on the success of fantasy within Blast. Like we were, and we still, until the whole time, the main app of the chains. I'd say that maybe strategy now has changed, and is not so much in line for maybe for like something like so crypto native like Fantasy Top or other type of apps, and it's chasing more external type of users, which we'll see later if it works out or not. For sure, like they are great builders, but they've been lacking a lot on the communication, marketing, and type of community building that is in the end extremely crucial for any company, anything in crypto. Like you are only as strong as your community, and it's not so much about your product. So for us, that's why we started to part our ways. But very thankful for the whole Blast ecosystem overall, and not trying to push some excuses or anything for regarding our growth, but the whole time we wanted to be kind of chain agnostic and trying to be so that on Fantasy you don't even know which chain you are on, and you can easily deposit from Solana, ETH, whatever chains you have money on. So really trying to abstract this aspect. So we didn't care so much to be on Blast or not, because in the end we wanted to abstract it away. But it came at a point where people were starting to lose trust in having money on it, in not wanting to do anything with it. So it's starting to impact also how players view the game. So that's why we made the shift.
Yeah, I was shocked looking at the Blast numbers after your announcement at how how low they were. I think you guys moving off Blast, the TVL dropped 95%. They have like 600K of TVL. Like the top protocols now are making like dollars a day. I couldn't believe how largely it had fallen off.
Yeah, I think we were. I don't know exactly for the TVL if this was true or if it was some fake numbers, but for sure, like we were like maybe 80% of the fees of the chain were due to Fantasy and not something else. So we were like the most of the activity.
Awesome. Mikado, we're gonna have to leave it here and bring Dan up. So, what people who maybe played with Fantasy Top in the early days and haven't tried it again since? I think you just launched a V2, V3. You're now on base.
Yeah.
Where can people go if they want to check it out again?
I mean, go on Fantasy Top, and you can even go on the free-to-play version if you would just want to have a quick game and have fun on it without playing with money. It's designed in a way that's very much more fast-paced and very enjoyable, and a lot of people are enjoying it. So go around, test around, and I'm pretty sure we'll like it. Anybody that knows crypto Twitter will be familiar with it, and has a great potential. But thanks a lot for bringing me on, and looking forward for the rest.
Yeah, man, appreciate it. We'll check in a few months with you.
Awesome.
Thanks so much.
Thanks.
Peace.